What is up, Internet? Brian Hurst coming to you. So, you want to build your own house. You're tired of looking around and seeing the old houses on the market. You're not finding what you want. You decided, I'm just going to build my own house. Well, how exactly do you go about doing that? We're going to talk about all of that today and more on The Brian Hurst Show. Well, welcome everybody to today's episode of the Brian Hurst Show. And this is a question that comes up a lot to me in the world of real estate. People, they get frustrated with not being able to find what they're looking for on the market. And so they just have this dream of being able to acquire a piece of property and build, the house that they would want on it. And today we have a very special guest warming up in the bullpen. Derick McGee from DCM Designs is going to be with us here in just a minute. But let's talk a little bit about what has created this kind of tension in people looking to build their own house. I think no matter what the market is, people would like to build their own home. I mean, it is a wonderful kind of idea and something that everybody would like to. I mean, I would love to do it. It would be, if I had the ability to do it, I sure would like to. But to kind of exacerbate the issue, I want to share something with you that's interesting that I found on a website called, let's see, it's statista.com. And you can go over there and take a look at it. But this is the number of homes built in the United States between 1900 and 2021. And just for you can see before 1950, it was a pretty low number, but starting in 1950, probably in part because of the baby boom, part the World War II generation, coming back from the war, wanting to establish themselves and get a family, and the white picket, the whole Leave It to Beaver thing. You can see, I mean, it was a big difference, right? 1940 to 49. There was 4.79 million homes built in that decade. Okay, let's look at the 50s. A little over 10 million homes built. In the 60s, just under 10 million homes built. In the 70s, a little over 12 million homes built. In the 80s, again, a little over 12 million homes built. In the 90s, a little over 12 million homes built. Then we see a real boom in the decade of the early 2000s, almost 15, nearly 15 million homes built. And then in 2010 to 2019, we have a little less than 7 million homes built. This is the fewest number of homes built in any given decade since the 40s. So, and this statistic is even just a little bit skewed because in a where we have had now in the last 15 years, less than half the number of homes built that we've been building since 1950. And at the same time, we have a market condition where the millennials have now become adults. They have children, they've gotten married, and that's a big block of people. And they're all wanting their own home. And I've got clients that are my kids' age. They were in high school in 2008, 9, and 10. Now they're in their 30s, late 20s, early 30s. They're married, they have kids, they've got careers, they want to own their own property. And during that same period of time that all of those people have come to the market, we haven't been building homes. We've built less than half over a 15-year period. And so what this means is for us to kind of dig out of that hole over the next 15 years, we would have to build twice the number of homes. We need to build 30 million homes in the next 15 years to make up for the last 15 years. And of course, we know that's probably not going to happen. In part because it's very expensive to build homes, and in part because our current political climate, it would seem as though that people running our state for sure are not really crazy about single family residences. They would rather us live in multifamily situations. And so this creates frustration on the part of the consumer, the buyer. Somebody will come to me and they say, we're interested in buying a house, and then I'll log into the MLS. I'll send them a list of homes kind of fitting the criteria. They say we want, at least 3 or 4 bedrooms. We want at least 2 or 3 bathrooms. We want at least 2,000 square feet. This is the part of town we'd like to live. This is the amount of money we'd like to spend. And I email them that list of homes. And then oftentimes they'll say, well, you know what? We've been kind of thinking about maybe just building our own house. What do we need to do? So here to help us to understand all of that today, I want to welcome to the show, the Brian Hirsch Show, my good friend and great builder, Mr. Derick McGee. Derick, what is up?
Hey Brian, thanks for having me. It's
Man,
quite
so
an honor
glad
to be
to
on your
have you,
show.
dude. And we've been doing business for a while together. It was probably about 2014, as I recall, maybe, that you built our first house with Josh.
I believe that's right. We built about 4 of them right off the bat.
Yeah, and you were there to kind of pick up the pieces, and it was Josh that found you, our mutual friend, Josh, who's a client and friend of ours. But he's the one that found you, right?
He did. We were sharing one of the same subcontractors, and the subcontractor actually put us in contact with each other. And since then, we've went on to, just for that client, I think, develop over 15 plus homes all over the high desert, single
That's
families.
awesome, man. So, Derick, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background. You grew up here in the high desert.
I did. I grew up in the big town of Phelan.
Big town. How many people live in Phelan?
Both of us.
What?
At the time. Um, no, I've been in Hesperia and Apple Valley most of my adult life, and DCM Designs has been incorporated for 8 years. My team consists of 6 individuals, and combined, we have over 50 years of experience in the building trades. I graduated early. I went to college. I pursued engineering and never made it all quite through, but I did continue with the drafting and design. So I helped the whole plan process. We're accredited by the BBB, we're accredited by Zoom Build, and we're approved builder for 5 or 6 different finance agencies that lend to consumers who want to build their own house.
Wow. Okay. So along the way, I think you said that you had started, working. How you got into building houses? You just jumped on at a very young age with another builder.
Well, back in the day, to get a job, you had to go door to door and knock and shake hands and look people in the eye. And I went to every builder I could find in the high desert. I had a little Nissan hardbody pickup, and I said I was willing to sweep houses, clean dirty tubs, and learn anything that they'd be willing to teach me. From
Well,
that
so
point on,
you were
I
willing
went
to kind of get down and dirty, get your hands dirty, and do actual hard manual labor.
whatever it took to pay my insurance and go out to eat on Friday nights, I guess.
Okay, and then
And
you began to learn some things, I presume, being around the trades and.
I did. I worked myself all the way up to a superintendent position. This was before the big fallout of 2006, I guess, or 2007. And from there, I went on to work in the trades. And after that, and worked for project managers for companies and estimators for hotels. It was time to quit my 9 to 5 and take on the 365-day job 24/7, owning my own company and trying to pursue helping people build houses and being a contractor.
Welcome to the world of being self-employed, Bubba. When
Thank
you're
you.
self-employed, you don't have a job, the job owns you, right?
That's correct. And you say you're self-employed, but at the end of the day, I work for every one of my clients. They're
Right.
ultimately the boss, and they still write me a check just like you do when you work your 9 to 5 for an employer.
Sure. And as you know, I spend a lot of time down here at our club playing golf. And the guys down there, a lot of them are retired. And so when I show up down there and the prime time is the mornings. I'm actually not crazy about playing in the mornings. I'd rather play in the afternoons and handle work business in the morning. But be that as it may, they'll ask me, "Don't you ever work?" And I tell them, like, man, I'm working every day, out there on the golf course, the afternoons, the evenings. I have a little bit of an advantage in that I'm an empty nester now. You still have kids at home.
Yeah, I still have 2 boys at home, and they're very active.
Yeah. So, but man, you're a real blessing to me personally, and I know to them. So along the way, you got your general contractor's license.
I got my general contractor's license almost 10 years ago now. I started off using it just to be a project manager. And when the market started coming back, immediately got into building homes and working with developers and investors to build homes for them to resell, kind of like we were talking earlier.
Yeah, and we've done a number of deals together. Some of them with Josh, being the investor, and some of them with you being the investor. It's your own money.
Yeah.
But and I sell those homes, and I talk to the clients, the people that either the agents representing the buyers, or in some cases the buyers themselves, if I'm the one that showed the house or if I'm doing an open house. And I was like, man, Derick builds a great home, a great product, quality construction. And what I appreciate about you, Derick, is that you stand behind your work. And you don't make a fuss over, and I've been on the other end where I have a buyer that has purchased a new construction house from another builder, and it didn't go as well. It was
Yeah.
kind of difficult. Sometimes those builders can make themselves scarce or be a little difficult in standing behind their work, and you can tell that some of the workmanship sometimes is shoddy.
I'd love to take all the credit, Brian, but there's a lot of people involved with me when I build a house. And those people stand with the same credibility. They back their product, whether they're an electrician, a concrete guy, or a landscaper, or even the cleanup crew that didn't clean the track of the window or something. So it takes a team effort, not just one person, to develop a house and a team to warranty that house afterwards.
Yeah, Derick, but the buck stops with you, Bubba. The
Thanks,
buck
Jeff.
stops with you. I appreciate you. A good leader always looks out the window to give credit and in the mirror to take responsibility. And so that tells me that you're a man of character. But ultimately, the buck stops with you, and it's your name.
Yeah.
It's your name on that house. And I appreciate that you've always stood behind it. So this is a question that you probably get a lot, right? I want to build my own house.
Well, let's dive in. I don't want to get too hung up on looking for the lot. People typically know what city they want to live in. So once they pick their city, when they get into that lot, there's a few things they need to check before they sign at the dotted line to own that lot. They need to know about their drainage, their utilities, and even the setbacks of the lot. Some lots in this high desert aren't buildable, and they get put out on the MLS. And when I say they're not buildable within reason. I mean, if you
Right.
got $200,000 to put a bridge over a natural drainage, that's not an exaggeration. That some lots are that bad.
Well, but and so just to back up a little bit, when we're talking about acquiring a lot,
Mhm.
and you said you don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but it's important for people to know this. You need to have Cash.
Number
Right?
one,
You got to buy the lot, right? You're not going to buy it for them.
that's correct. You need to own the lot because that's what's going to enable you to get that construction financing, or
And
whether
how
you
much is
get
a
financing,
buildable lot?
hard money, or cash.
How much is a buildable lot going for these days in the desert?
Well, Brian, your favorite line to me about real estate is location, location, location.
Well, those
And
are the three things that add value to a property.
exactly. So those are the
Yeah.
three things that add value to the lot.
Yeah.
Some of our lots in some of our smaller lots in Apple Valley and maybe out towards Phelan or even Lucerne Valley are as low as $40,000. Some of our primo 2.5 acre lots pushing Baldy Mesa and Oak Hills, I've seen them over 100,000.
Right. And here on the water in Spring Valley Lake, 150, 200,000.
Yeah,
Depending on them, especially if you're on open water, you got a beautiful view. And there's probably some properties anywhere in the more desirable areas. So here in our market, that would be the Desert Knolls area of Apple Valley. That would be Spring Valley Lake. That would be the Mesa, anywhere along the Ranchero corridor in the south end of Hesperia, Oak Hills. Those are kind of the more desirable parts of town. The lots are going to be more expensive. I would say probably just to plan on $100,000.
I think that's a little bit north of average, but that's just my opinion. Most of the houses that I've developed in the last 5 years, the lots were typically acquired either bulk purchasing or individuals who acquired the lots through inheritances or went into with family. And there was typically a deal involved. To go on the MLS and just pick your lot, maybe you'll be north of 80,000.
Now, should the client, let's say they have the 80,000, and should the client consult you first before choosing the lot?
Yes and no. If I let everybody consult me for every lot, I would have a full-time job doing it that doesn't pay anything. Um, Homeowners and buyers need to do their due diligence. Most questions can be asked by calling the city department, the local jurisdiction. Drainage is a key thing. They can give you the insights to your lot. There's a FEMA website for Apple Valley that helps you with flood zones. And even if the lot looks flat, that doesn't mean it's not in a flood zone. So it's just doing the due diligence of being a purchaser. You don't go buy a car without test driving it first. So it's asking questions. Is there drainage? How close are my utilities? How close am I to schools? How close am I to entertainment and shopping? I mean, that's kind of the personal aspects. And are there any special things to do? What water district is it in? There's 20 different water districts. Liberty gives us free water meters. Hesperia charges $12,000 for a water meter.
Wow.
Yeah, no joke. Victor Bill is even worse. So that's just doing your due diligence, shopping a lot.
Okay, so you get the lot.
Yep.
You spend the 80. You have to have the $80,000, or you inherit it from a family. Whatever. You acquire the lot. You've done all your due diligence, utilities, drainage, and so on, and now we're ready to start building the house. Answer two questions for us. Number one, kind of briefly give us the outline of the steps to the day that they get the keys and they open, and start moving in. And how long is this going to take once I have the lot?
Wow. I didn't bring my crystal ball to this episode, but let's start with owning the lot. Once you have the lot and you decide you want to build, are you financing? Do you have hard money? Do you have cash? If you have cash, we can skip the next 5 months and be building in 3 weeks. If you're going to go do the financing, there's a lot of steps. You need to get a contractor who will give you a budget accurately enough to fund your construction loan, knowing that your construction may not start for 5 to 6 months. During those 5 to 6 months is when your design takes place. You get to pick your bedrooms, how many bathrooms, how big is your dining room, where's your kitchen at, what window looks east, what window looks west. You get to start designing it. Usually that takes a month in itself. People get the chance to put their own personality, characteristics, everything into the design. Once the design is done, we go to the planning stage. That's when we start the structural engineering, the Title 24, a bunch of paperwork to get your plans ready to submit to the local jurisdiction.
So you gotta have money. And the term that you had used earlier was access to the money. By access to the money, you're talking about getting a loan. So they're not going to be able to call, Samantha or Pride, the lenders we work with, and be like, hey, I'm going to build a house. Give me an FHA loan. And we'll just give the money to Derick and he'll build the house for us. That's not, you could imagine there would be a lot of fraud, right?
I think it happened once before.
Oh,
but,
okay. So, it's incremental. So you got to get a construction loan, and there may be an FHA-backed construction loan. I'm not sure, but and that's maybe a question for Samantha or Pride. But you got to have the builder to give you a budget to get the loan.
Yes, and that budget is going to turn into the loan. So it's scary for us contractors and builders not knowing that the consumer either may have, a bucket full of cash setting to the side to accommodate for any extras or price increases. I mean, last year we saw lumber increase 35% in 6 weeks. The budget that we're talking about right now needs to be good for upwards of 6 months.
So do you err on the high side with the budget then to allow for some margin?
I don't want to err on the high side because then the people will get less of a house. There's such a fine line to walk. I mean, we're talking 2 or 3%, not 20%. If I leaned 20%, I could build everybody's house, but they would end up with smaller houses than they actually could have afforded.
And then the buyer, the client, the buyer, they have to qualify for the budget too, right?
Yes. So that's where there's a lot of time put in with the contractor, and the contractor and the developer needs to be able to work with the homeowner on a good faith agreement, assuming that they're going to get to build the house. There's a long relationship that has to be formed from building your own house with your developer. And sometimes there's an architect in between too. I offer both services, but I built houses for people that had separate architects, and those jobs go smooth too, but it takes time and a lot of patience from the client. Patience is key.
All right. So you get the lot, you get your construction loan, you got your budget, you go through all of that portion of it to where now we're going into the planning. You get through all your permits, all the paperwork, you get all that done, and then we finally break ground. So it's probably going to take you 6 months to even get to that point?
That's realistic. 5 to 6 months.
And then from the day that you break ground until the day you finish that house is going to be about how long?
Depending on the house, higher end custom larger homes do take a little bit more time. If we just talk, let's say a 2,800 square foot, 4-bed, 3-bath, 3-car garage, nice patio, custom home, I would guess about 6 to 8 months to complete it. And that's putting upper end fixtures in, appliances, ordering everything ahead. But keep in mind, people have been patient for 5 or 6 months before we got to break ground. Right. And now we're finally breaking ground. So it's a year-long process.
So best case scenario,
yes,
it's going to be a year.
Yes.
And that's after you acquire the lot. So, from the time you start this process until the time you move in, it may be closer to, 14, 18 months, and I actually spoke to a client in preparation of today's show who did this very thing. Here in Spring Valley Lake, he acquired this big corner lot, over 10,000 square foot lot, and he was able to put an RV garage and have plenty of parking for all his toys and everything, which is kind of rare in our community. And he custom built the house. He had one of your competitors build the house for him. But guess how long it took him from start to finish to move into that house?
It could be 3 months. It could be 2 years.
2 years. 2 years. And so then it begs the question. So you got number one, you got to have money. You're not going to be able to bankroll the whole thing or,
You gotta have money to
finance the
get
whole
your
thing.
lot. Once you have your lot, you have to be realistic with your dreams and your characteristics and what you want to put into the house. And then the construction loan should take over from there. You should have a small cushion because some of the drafting, I mean, it's almost like retaining a lawyer. Some of the drafting fees and structural fees, if the bank doesn't issue our first draw until the permit's ready to issue, you have to have $7,000 or $8,000 to just cover those expenses. Most banks, I want to say all of them actually, will reimburse you your out-of-pocket expense for plans and permits on the first draw.
Gotcha. Okay. So in the meantime, so you got to have the money or access to it, like you said. And you mentioned hard money loans, and that'll be another. Maybe we'll have Josh on to help us understand what hard money loans are. But the second thing you got to have is the luxury of time.
Yeah, absolutely. The
Right.
luxury
So
of time.
because it's going to take at least a year. So you got to, where are you going to live between now and the time you move into your new house?
It's a tough predicament. And it sounds, why would anybody do it? There's actually a lot of benefit to doing it. You're gonna you're gonna get the house you want. The house is gonna reflect you as an individual. It's gonna reflect the things you like. It's gonna face the way you want it to face. It's gonna have you. But maybe even more importantly to some, you're gonna move in with equity. When you build your own house and you hire a contractor, you're paying for his supervision and experience to build the home. When you buy a house, there's already been a contractor who built it and got paid, and you're paying current market value. So the goal is my clients get to move in with anywhere from 5 to 20% equity, assuming they don't use it during the course of construction to upgrade things and change things.
Right. Well, okay. So the term we use in our business is replacement cost. You've heard that?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the issue of 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and probably maybe around 15 is when we started to see a turn. Is there for about 7 or 8 years, you could not build a house for the price that it would cost you to buy a house. So when our median sale price was, say, $115,000, there's no way you're building the house for $115,000. But in today's market, you can build a house for significantly less than it would cost you to buy a house. And this is the laws of supply and demand and the way money works. So one of the huge upsides to building your own home is if I can build median sell price in the desert, we're getting ready to cover these numbers in a moment, but is around $400,000. Or if I can build that same house for $300,000 or $325,000, and I immediately, as you pointed out, have 20% equity in my house, I'm winning.
You are winning, but at the expense of being patient for the year for that to take place.
Right.
And the equity can be used for the upgrades that don't come with a new house: landscaping, fencing, the rest of your appliances. Most of our new houses don't only come with your stove, dishwasher, and microwave hood. You still got to buy a fridge, wash machine, dryer, and potentially other things. You get to pick your own light fixtures. You don't have to redo the house when you move in to match your style, for lack of better words. So there's a huge benefit. It's just the patience to do it. And the construction loans are actually really good right now. It just takes time.
Well, Derick, you've been wonderful. One more question before we get you out of here. If people are interested in going down this road and they have the means, they have the assets, they have the luxury of time, and they're able to kind of fulfill this dream of designing their own home and building it, where would they find you?
Well, they can find me on my website. My website has my phone number. It has my email address. It has some of the key players on the team. We can set up an appointment. Most of the time, I'm going to steer you straight to finding the lot first. Once you have the lot, then I really want to sit down with you, because it's great to talk about dreams, but if we don't have the limits of the lot, it's tough to start the design process.
And that's where, a real estate professional like me can come alongside and help, and I can get you a list of lots that are listed for sale and start that negotiating process. There's your website there. They can find you on Facebook too, right, D?
You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, the Better Business Bureau, zoombuild.com. We're listed in almost every city jurisdiction out here for drafting, design, and general contracting services. And information's free. Phone calls are free. Love to talk to anybody.
Derick, you've been wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we will have you back on soon.
I look forward to it. Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Awesome. Thanks. Derick McGee, ladies and gentlemen, one of the finest contractors and builders that you'll find anywhere here in our market. So if you're looking for somebody to help you with your construction, he's your guy. All right, let's get to this week's market update. Before we do that, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is the way that we can grow our audience. The algorithms, they really like it when you smash the like button. That'll really increase our reach and help us to get the message out. We just want to help people because the more informed and more educated you are, the better decisions you can make. All right, let's get to the weekly market update. This is, again, the high desert. Defining the high desert, these are single family residences in Victorville, Apple Valley, Hesperia, Adelanto, Phelan, and Oak Hills. So last 30 days sold 217, and that's down a little bit from last week, which was closer to 230. And so still a sluggish market from the standpoint of our absorption rate. Year over year, we had sold 262 homes during the same time frame. So that's January 6th, February 6th, 2022. So we're down, 25% from a year ago. Median sale price of those homes that sold in the last 30 days, just under 400,000. So we're, down $100 from last week. So holding in there around 400,000. Interestingly enough, 1 year ago, year over year, median sale price was 405,000. So we're down just a little bit from a year ago. You're going to see as the weeks go on, about the second quarter of 2022, we saw kind of the peak, and then we're down from there. The number of homes in escrow is up just a little bit at 402. So you can see we actually have almost 2 months of supply in escrow. So that indicates that the activity has picked up this past week. And we're going to see what happens between this week and next, and over the next 30 days. The home buying season almost always starts around this time. MLK weekend is almost kind of the kickoff to the housing season. The reason I think that is the case in our market is people start filing their taxes, and they're getting a little bit of, maybe a return and some money that they're thinking about, buying a house. And so activity almost always picks up this time of year, and it cranks up it steadily. When it really gets going is when the time changes. So when we see that time change next month, and now we've got that extra hour in the evening to get out there and show homes, you'll see the activity really pick up. Actively listed for sale, we're down since last week, down to 900 homes listed for sale. And so the inventory is tight. And what this means for you, if you're thinking about buying, now's the time to act, because it's not going to be all that much longer that you're going to be in a multiple offer situation, and any incentives that people, the sellers are giving, may go bye-bye. Current interest rate, anywhere between the low 5s to the low 6s, depending on your credit. And our source this week for the current rate is Pride Stromsot. And you can see her information down there. She's at vintagelending.com. All right. We just want to say again a huge thank you to everybody for joining us today on the Brian Hirsch Show. Been a great, I include you to share this, particularly for anybody who's interested in maybe having their home built. We're going to see you again next week. In the meantime, have a wonderful week. And thanks for joining us on the Brian Hirsch Show.